That is right. If you guys could pick on my humming of the famous opening to a great sci-fi franchise in the title of this video, then you know we're going to be ranking all 6 Terminator films today. So, like I did with the RoboCop one, I'm just going to put my least favorite down at the bottom and my all-time favorite at the top. So please don't get too mad at me if I put your favorite one lower on my list. So at number 6, which is my least favorite, will probably have to be Terminator Genisys. I went to see this in theaters with my parents, and I get it was a slight reboot to the franchise, so all the events that happened in Terminator 1 and all the other films don't count. They just rewritten it to where an older Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up to fight the 84 Terminator, and he trained Sarah Connor to fight Skynet instead of her known by Kyle Reese. I just pretty much didn't like the storyline part of it, but seeing John Connor as the bad guy really bugged me. But I did like that Terminator he turned into. It was like a T-3000 nano machine type Terminator, and him fighting off Arnold was a cool fight scene in the hospital, but also towards the end. But I hated that he was able to rip the flesh off of his mechanical arm and then stab it and rip it off. And it was setting up for 2 more films after this, so it would be a complete trilogy. But of course, it never happened because they went straight to Dark Fate, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on my list. This, I feel like, should have been made after they got done with Terminator Salvation timeline and then go straight to reboot. That's all they had to do, but nope. And I still would like to know who sent Pops to Sarah Connor back in the 70s just to let her know a supercomputer was sending Terminators to hunt her down, basically. Because they never explained who it was because they wiped their name out of his system, so Skynet would not know. Still drives me off the wall. But anyway, good movie, but it was just a total flop to begin with. All right, number 5 would have to be... I can't believe I'm even putting this one that low, but it's Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. I love the storyline of it. It's a continuation from Terminator 1 and 2. But the fact that James Cameron did not written or direct this one, but he let Arnold Schwarzenegger do it with his blessing. And it was cool to see Arnold as a new model series, a T-850, because I think the original plans were that he was going to come back as a completely different series with Model 201 instead of 101. But to see a female Terminator fighting him was pretty bad to the bone. I didn't like it that Edward Furlong didn't reprise his role as John Connor in here. Don't get me wrong, the guy that plays John Connor in here did great, but it just seemed weird having Arnold and the guy that played the psychiatrist from the first 2 be in it, and then some of the other cast members ain't in it no more, and they killed off Sarah Connor. But it's still a cool movie in the franchise, nevertheless. But I just like this one better over Genisys, let's put it that way. On number 4 pick, Terminator Dark Fate. What can I say? They brought Linda Hamilton back as Sarah Connor, and they wiped out the events of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, Salvation, and Genisys is all gone. So it's just 1 and 2 now, tied in with this one. And basically, Arnold's playing a Terminator that was sent back by Skynet after they destroyed any trace of it ever being conceived, and he still had orders to kill John, which he did. And I was still torn apart about this. I kind of like this one a little bit over number 3 because it was cool to see another Terminator that was able to have liquid metal over its endoskeleton just like the TX, but this time it was able to split in 2, which that was never done before in all the other Terminator films. And plus, this Terminator that I'm talking about, the Rev 9, was made by a computer program called Legion. And it's in cyberspace, so it won't know system core like Skynet had. And I kind of hated that whole concept, be like Skynet was way better, because I like the Terminator designs from that computer than Legion, because Legion just kind of went more simpler, and it has an exposed area on the endoskeletons that it made. The Rev 7 and 9 circuit areas where the eyes are connected to, so any attack right there would mess it up completely. But it was cool to see that Carl, the Terminator that killed John, realized what he'd done, and he's living life as a normal human. But it's funny how he's written to be a person that works with drapes. I mean, all the jobs on Earth that a cyborg can do, he picked drapes. I would see a female Terminator do that. But anyway, it was just funny seeing that whole scene where Carl and the Hispanic girl that was being chased by the Rev 9, he was talking about the customer he had, saying he wanted solid colored drapes in the little girl's room. He said, don't do it. Just to see him and the Rev 9 fight each other in the water was epic, but I just did not like seeing the Rev 9 ripping off Carl's arm. That just felt painful to me. Just to see him sacrifice himself in front of Sarah was kind of like a true message, like he's repaying a debt to Sarah for killing John. And then this was supposed to set up a whole new set of movies too, but of course I don't know when that's ever going to happen because James Cameron got the rights back to do some more Terminator films, but right now he's busy with his Avatar franchise and some other films right now, so he ain't in a huge hurry to bring this back. And some people just said, after this, you might as well just let it die and not do nothing else. But I still think somebody can try to fix the timeline a little bit. So we will not have Dark Fate and Genisys in it, you know. Okay, number 3 is Terminator Salvation. I mean, come on, Christian Bale playing John Connor was the bomb. But also just to see this guy named Marcus Wright, who was a convict, get sentenced to death, but he signed over his body for science, thinking that, okay, they were just going to chop him up and dispose of him, right? No, they made him into a resistance infiltration prototype, which he did not ask for, but he signed the contract, and they did it to him, but gave him a second chance of life, too. But if he got shot in a certain area near the heart, he would definitely feel it, like a normal human would. And plus, John thought that he was a new model that Skynet sent to infiltrate the resistance. He said he was looking for him to ask him for help, but he didn't trust him at first until he escaped. But the action sequences in here where Kyle Reese and Marcus teamed up to fight a T-600 and these moto cycle Terminators was awesome and epic. And then fights the T-800 that was fighting John Connor. But then the T-800 hits him and stops his heart. But then John was able to restart it up. But I hated that scene where the Terminator just took a piece of metal and jabbed it right through John's chest. But Marcus was able to grab that bar out and rip that Terminator's head off. And it was satisfying just to see John turn on his explosive trigger and see the whole Skynet facility go up in flames. But I know if they continued off of this movie, imagine the battles that they would have fighting Terminators in other factories until it gets to the point where John has to send Kyle back in time. You know, I mean, I wish they would continue off of this. But then we got Genisys of Dark Fate and kind of messed everything up. But of course, critics have to say, like, oh, this one was bad. But it just sucks we're never going to continue to see what happens in this timeline. Number 2 is the Terminator, the original one. I should have had this at number 1 since it's the original, but the way the Terminator endoskeleton stop motion stuff was not improved yet, so it looked kind of sloppy when you see it moving like it's still a puppet. But also, just seeing Arnold as a bad guy in here is like, oh man, I definitely don't want to be around this guy. It was way too much shooting violence with Arnold's Terminator in this one, because at first he steals a punk's clothes, but then went to a gun shop, stole a bunch of guns and shot the store owner for no reason. But of course, he probably figured that the guy would call the cops on him if he's trying to steal it. And then he goes after the wrong Sarah Connors and kills Sarah's friend and her boyfriend. And then later on, he goes back and kills all the cops that are protecting Sarah. But it was just satisfying just to see his Terminator get hit by that semi-truck and then get blown up. So you can see the endoskeleton. I mean, that scene was awesome. Just seeing that thing rise up from the ashes, basically. But then it was also satisfying to see Kyle put the pipe bomb into its midsection and blowing it up in half. But then seeing Sarah crush it and saying, "You're terminated, effer," was extremely cool. So that leads me to my number one pick, which is Terminator 2. Seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger as a good reprogrammed Terminator helping young John Connor and Sarah out to stop Skynet was really a good plot twist from the first movie. Seeing a liquid metal Terminator. Whew. Once I saw this movie, I was like, how in the world were they going to stop this thing? Because it seems like it's indestructible. But towards the end, when Arnold shot him with the grenade launcher, it was really satisfying. But I was glad when it was terminated. But then it was sad to see Arnold follow him into the pit as well, just to melt him down. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my ranking of the Terminator films that we already have right now, but if they decide to make more in the future, I will definitely update my list. But this has been another successful installment of the Tinmans Core channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tinman Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, everybody.